Hey, this is Notser, and today we're taking a look at the CV changes and roadmap. This is a developer blog post that is detailing the roadmap to bringing the CV into a more balanced state to the game. This is on the World of Warships subreddit, and if you would like to comment or read for yourself, you can go there. It's under CV changes and roadmap, and let's just get started. So obviously leave comments. I'm going to comment on anything that I feel they're omitting, but I'm very interested in talking about this. So these are their initial plans for the foreseeable future, which goes up to 0.8.4. So anything after 0.8.4 basically wasn't discussed here. So they could still have more changes. It's just that these changes are targeted for the short term. And more long-term changes, they might still be thought of, but they haven't been considered in this roadmap. So, first thing, balance settings, general to specific. They're at the stage of adjusting the balance globally. They're not really at the stage of adjusting individual ships yet. The alternative torpedo Hakudo needed individual ship balance. That was an extreme that obviously needed the hotfix, but they still feel like individually the ships are not quite there yet. They need to do more global adjustments. They want to globally adjust the air defense, and they want to globally adjust the air losses per each tier. They want to make sure that it feels just globally more balanced before they start tweaking individual stats. But once they feel like they're closer to a global balance, and let's be real, developers will decide this on their own. It may be, they're 80% of the way there, but they want to go more specific. We'll see whenever they do, right? Oh, we don't plan to remove a ship from the arsenal, but then, 2 years later, oh, there it goes. So don't read this as gospel, because everything is subject to change. But just in general, global changes first, line changes next, individual aircraft carrier changes after that. And they plan to adjust the survivability, individual survivability per tier. So there could be a incredible imbalance right now between the Lexington and the Shokaku, for example, or the Midway and the Hakudo. And they're going to try and adjust globally first before they get to the individual balance between the two. I think that's a compromise that honestly we have to accept because they're not quite there yet. Global balance CV changes yet. Next change that they're going to be doing. Some of the changes that they were implementing through the hotfix is they increased the constant air DPS. The flak itself is less impactful in the current AA system, and what they want to do is they want to put a protection that prevents the just unrelenting layering of 4, 5, 6 ships and their constant DPS multiplying appropriately 4, 5, 6 times. They're going to add a modifier that prevents the AA from being a perfect 1-to-1 multiplier when extra AA is overlapped. It's going to be something more akin to if there's 2 aircraft carriers grouped up, then they're effectively doing like 1.5 times their DPS instead of two times their DPS. If there's 3, they do 2.1 or 2.2 instead of 3. So it's going to be better that you're grouped up than you would ever be alone, but you're not going to gain the most DPS possible because there's a protection that they're going to be introducing there. I think this is outstanding. It's still better than nothing. You still benefit from grouping up. It's just not going to be unrelentingly overpowered. This also means that they could theoretically make the individual AA DPS stronger so that ships are better equipped to protect themselves while still protecting the overall AA DPS game by lowering the multiplied layer DPS. So I think this is great. This should allow for more specific balance tweaks. I love it. To solve their problem with the F key spam, they introduced a significant amount of time for the aircraft carriers to gain altitude and to reach the invulnerable state. Unfortunately, when they introduced this change, it was applied to every single aircraft that would gain altitude. So pressing the F key, or just merely your squadron finishing an attack. That's why finishing an attack doesn't really have the same benefit as it did prior to this nerf. what they're going to introduce is they're going to introduce 2 individual settings for pressing the F key and for the squadron automatically returning after it's dropped its payload. The F key press will be more penalty. It may get even worse than it is right now, but to them, what you're supposed to do is leave the AA aura completely before you press the F key. I completely agree with this. I think this is perfect, and if they can introduce some benefit to completing an attack run with your squadron rather than pressing the F key, I'm all for that. I felt like, honestly, this should have been in day 1, but hey, it's good that we're getting it eventually, and I can't wait. They plan on introducing, initially, a damage indicator for the amount of damage you did to aircraft in the battle results screen. This is an easy fix because they already have a display. The calculation for economic benefit, though, will come a little bit later, though. So they're going to be doing that once the statistics have stabilized. But we will be getting, probably in 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 time frame, we're going to be getting the damage added to the battle results screen. I think that's great. Obviously, it's great to know more information about what you did in the game. I'm all for that. The Priority Air Defense Sector interface, as well as the information regarding plane readiness on the deck of the CV, will be reworked for more convenience and clarity. It's a one-sentence sort of response. I don't really know what they're doing, but I think we can all agree that the sector system interface needs improvement. I don't know what they're going to be doing, and honestly, I don't know that they know what they're going to be doing because it's very vague, but they're doing something. That's better than nothing, but I would like to know more specifics. They agree with the popular opinion that aircraft carriers have excessive capabilities to spot enemy ships, especially at the start of the battle. They're going to be working on a solution for the situation. Actually, the solution is already underway, and they will share the information on progress in future publications. So maybe, in a couple weeks or a month, we'll hear about what they're going to be doing to prevent the aircraft carrier's excessive spotting. In addition to that, the action skill radiolocation will be disabled for aircraft by popular request. I think that's fine. Honestly, I feel like radiolocation is sort of a wasted skill, but I could see where players would value it. It's just telling you where to go, and that's great. But the aircraft already move like 2, 3, 4, 5 times the speed of ships. You got to be able to catch them. And I think that radiolocation be removed. I think that's a healthy change just for the player base's perception. I don't think it'll actually have a lot of impact on the game itself, but the perception is important as well. The same can be said about the interaction of aircraft carriers and destroyers. The search for opportunities to mitigate the unpleasant scenario. I love how they're like, unpleasant scenario, in which the aircraft carrier can effectively shut down a single destroyer with exhaustive attacks are already underway. We're testing changes on the settings of the attack aircraft and other potential improvements. There are chances that it could be a radical solution, but there's also chances that a radical solution is not necessary. But they seriously are investing resources in investigating this destroyer versus aircraft carrier conversation. Obviously, the DD versus CV has always been a love-hate relationship. I love to hate you. And I think that's going to continue for a while. I'm curious what the change exactly will be, but I can completely understand it. It really sucks to just have to hide. That's basically the best solution for a DD right now. Just hide. Don't ever let him see you. Okay, if I want to hide, I'll just play another game. Hide from the CVs completely. So obviously, I'm looking forward to the changes, but they don't have any concrete detail change yet. After collecting comments, they're going to be trying to modify the autopilot feature of the aircraft carrier so that it operates more predictable and more convenient. So this is what they plan on doing before or as of 8.4. Anything after 8.4 is up for grabs. And to me, there's a lot of great things that they're trying to introduce. But do you know what they're not doing? They're not doing anything to the fighter consumable. And to me, one of the most glaring imbalances of the carrier is how the fighter consumable functions. It's just really bad. It basically is a line of sight tool, a free spotting without risking anything tool, and it has moved so far away from defending your team or trying to do anything to mitigate the enemy carrier's impact on the game that it's laughable. You've got to be able to do something. You can't just ignore the carrier's existence. And attacking the carrier is almost suicidal. In fact, I showed a perfect example of the fighter consumable being more useful than actually attacking a carrier with my squadrons. Merely keeping the carrier spotted helped my team kill it faster than if I were to actually kill it as a carrier. That's a pretty big fail to me. The fighter has to be better. It has to be better. And it can't stay in this sort of lukewarm uselessness that it feels right now. That's the biggest issue I see with the carriers right now. It's as if they have, they can choose to go forward or go backwards. And if they had the fighter consumable that worked appropriate, then they could go left or right, but that is not a choice for them. So they have to just push forward. I don't really like that. I think that choice should always be there for the carrier. It forces the carrier to have to consider the other enemy carrier and help their team. I know Wargaming wanted to devalue the counter carrier playstyle with the strafing and all that stuff. And yeah, get rid of the strafing because the animation and all that was buggy. But please introduce something that is actually usable to defend your teammates from air attack. It just seems really weird. Anything else that I'm reading here? Obviously, the DD is a big deal, and it's pretty vague, so we want to hear more about that. The British aircraft carriers are imbalanced. I just want to put that out there for all of you guys. They will have to address that. I don't know if it'll be addressed before they come out. And honestly, I don't know that they're imbalanced because they're the British aircraft carriers. They may just be imbalanced because their mechanics haven't received the same sort of pass as the American or the Japanese. The Hakuru was completely broken until it wasn't. So I expect the same with the British aircraft carriers. They didn't mention if they're going to move up or down the carrier release schedule, so I assume that 8.1 and 8.2, we should expect all the British carriers and the premiums to come out. I don't know how much that's going to contribute to the imbalance, but that's going to happen during all of this. So just keep all that in mind. I hope that this is at least a positive step. This is something that Wargaming mentioned to the CCs probably honestly, a week or two ago. And it was under NDA, and I couldn't talk about it, but I was super excited about the overlapping AA defense being less effective, the F key spam separating. I think that's very important for game balance because there's a big difference between forcibly recalling your squadron and your squadron going back to the aircraft because they had a successful attack and there was no more armament to drop on their target. There's a big difference, and it was unfortunate that they were tied together for so long. So super excited about all these proposed changes because I think they're all the good changes. We'll see on the sector interface. I still kind of feel like it should just be the compass with two buttons, one to assign your port, one to assign your starboard. Double tap, single tap gets you enhanced, unenhanced, and just go from there. And never enter a user interface state that blocks your screen because something like the DDs, they're in that screen a lot. That's not really a fun screen to look at when you're playing a game. So leave in the comments what you think of all these topics. You can even leave in a comment saying that you don't agree that the fighter consumable needs any changes. I would love to read it all. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time. One thing that was just made live, sorry, this is an additive, is there's going to be an update, 0.8.0.3, and this update is going to be addressing some concerns that were mentioned in just literally seconds ago. This was made after I initially recorded the first video, so let's just run through it really quickly. Update 0.8.3 will affect the interaction of carriers with destroyers, the fighter consumable, and the individual balance of some ships. Due to some good maneuverability and precise aiming, even when changing directions of attack aircraft are excessively effective against destroyers. The latter have almost no opportunities for counterplay. So what they're going to be doing is they're going to be introducing more opportunities for counterplay. They're going to reduce the effectiveness of the attack aircraft against maneuvering destroyers. This basically means that it's going to be harder to aim. That's my interpretation. So whenever you're trying to make micro movements, it's going to be harder for you to maintain high accuracy against a DD that's actively maneuvering. They're going to increase the preparation time for the attack, which will not allow instant attacks on destroyers. So what does that mean? Is there going to be some pause for the attack aircraft itself at the beginning of the game? Does it just take more time? I'm curious if the preparation time is related to the yellow state when you're sort of preparing your aim before it goes green. Is this going to just be a longer time? I'm curious. Change the parameters of aiming. Now planes get a large aim penalty when changing their direction during an attack and will not be able to accurately shoot rockets when maneuvering. Hopefully, this means if you're actively maneuvering as a DD and you force him to change his direction, basically it throws off his attack. He has to maintain a nice clean attack the entire way through in order to hit with the new changes. Maneuverability during the preparation for attack and during the attack run is reduced, which will not allow attack aircraft to easily aim at a maneuvering destroyer if the approach of the attack was originally on the wrong vector. So you better aim really good because they're introducing even more aim penalties for maneuvering, for the attack squadron specifically. Thus, the destroyer, which actively maneuvers and takes into account in advance the attack vector of the squadron, will be able to successfully dodge. We'll see about that. The interaction of the attack aircraft with ships that do not change their course or due to their characteristics can't do it quickly will remain the same. So basically, if they're attacking a battleship or a heavy cruiser or an aircraft carrier, they're not going to maneuver fast enough for this to be a meaningful change. It's really only to address the DD versus carrier gameplay. Visibility of all ships from their air is reduced by 20%. Holy crap. This will reduce the reconnaissance potential of CVs at the start of the battle and will help destroyers to remain undetected for a longer period of time, provided that their AA is turned off with the help of the P key. So they're still trying to reinforce the idea that you keep your AA turned on. To improve the efficiency of the fighter consumable, we changed its settings. Now fighters quickly begin pursuing enemy squadrons in their area of influence. Also, increase the cruising speed, increase the number of aircraft called by a consumable on the squadron from 2, 3, 4 to 3, 5, and 7. So the higher tier, the more impactful they're going to be. We have also significantly reduced the hit points of fighters, which will emphasize their weakness against ships and low efficiency as an intelligence tool. In addition, the radius of patrolling fighters for squadrons has changed with tier progression. At Tier 6, it has been reduced to 2.5 kilometers. At Tier 8, it's unchanged. At Tier 10, it is now 3.5 kilometers, so it's an increase of half a kilometer for the Tier 10 experience, whereas it's reducing for Tier 6. Tier 4, you don't have fighters. Due to the excessive efficiency on account to the large number of torpedoes in the attack flight, the attacking potential of Midway's torpedo bombers is reduced. Their torpedoes have been replaced with weaker ones. Great. More weak torpedoes. The maximum damage is going to be about 1,000 less, and the chance of flooding is reduced. Everything else is unchanged. Changes that have affected the premium aircraft carrier Enterprise, bombers in all respects have become similar to the Helldiver bomber found on the aircraft carrier Lexington, but they still carry the AP bombs. This change will increase the survivability of the AP squadron. Good. Reduced torpedo arming time. The torpedo aiming is now similar to the Avenger torpedo bombers of the aircraft carrier Lexington. Previously, the torpedo aiming reticle was tightened slowly, but the penalty for maneuvering was lower. Now the aiming will be faster, but the penalty for maneuvering will be higher. Thus, when it's the right time to attack and you maintain a good, clean attack, it should be more effective. Replenishment of the attack aircraft on the deck has been accelerated, allowing for faster compensation for loss of aircraft. This applies only to the Enterprise. Other changes. Fixed an incorrect cooldown for consumable defense AA Fire 2 on destroyers. Now it is lower than the defense AA Fire 1. That's a weird bug. Reduced the size of bomber squadrons for the British aircraft carriers. I'm not surprised by this. You guys haven't played with them or against them, really. But I have, and they are powerful. An increased fall time of the bombs. Okay, so the dive bombers are going to take more time for them to... So you're going to have to give more lead in order to effectively hit. Due to the specifics of dropping bombs, British aircraft were too effective compared to other bombers. These changes will allow them to retain their features, but will lead to more balanced damage output. Hopefully, because the British are freaking OP. Change the number of attack aircraft in the attack flight for the base plane module of the aircraft carrier Furious. This is the Tier 6 British aircraft carrier. And for the attack aircraft on the aircraft carrier Indomitable. That is the premium Tier 8 aircraft carrier for the Brits. Now there are 2 planes instead of 3 in the attack flight, which will make 3 attacks possible in 1 squadron instead of 2. This is really nice. You kind of feel like you blow your load really quickly with the Indomitable, and I'm sure the Furious feels the same. You don't really want to do that very quickly. You want to stay over the target longer so you can hopefully do more damage. I like the change. It felt really weird to just do 2 attack runs on my Indomitable and come right back. It's like, go back, go back, go back, go back, go there, go back, and stuff like that. Fixed a bug that caused the guns of the ship Honghe to be displayed as floating on the air when the special New Year camo was equipped. February 23rd, the port of St. Petersburg will be decorated to celebrate the Defender of the Fatherland Day. Its appearance will remain festive until the release of 8.1. All right, exciting. More additions to the changes. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully this video's not too long. Hopefully you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.